Hey guys, it's Charles Hammers at ZoomTheTBT. This is the first of our matchup previews. We have the Men of Mackey on tonight. They'll be facing number 14 seeded Heartfire. You see on the bracket, you can see right there, they're facing Boeheim's already in. It's sort of that quad D matchup, the top of the quad. Charge, it's a pretty challenging region, isn't it?
Yeah, no, this one is loaded. So our first round matchup obviously is going to be against Heartfire, but the winner gets the pleasure of taking on the Boeheim's Army, which is one of the favorites to win it this year. If you're looking at any of the expert analysis online, and then looking across away from them, you got Team Challenge ALS, who's the 6th seed, but once again, somebody who's gaining a lot of buzz. So we'll talk mostly about Heartfire versus Men of Mackey, but if you're watching and want to know who they're going to play after they beat Heartfire, it's going to be Boeheim's.
And basically the thing about this too is Charge and I both have actually picked the champion out of this region, in fact, or this pod. I picked Boeheim's, and Charge is, to this point of this taping, picked ALS as the roster's in flux. But that's not to minimize this matchup. So you have some pretty good teams, Heartfire and our guests say Men of Mackey, pretty solid. Let's introduce our guests. Gentlemen, would you like to introduce yourselves for the record?
Hey, everyone.
This is Ryan.
Yeah, this is Ryan K. I'm the general manager.
Okay. And could the coach introduce himself, please?
Ryan Smith, head coach.
And we have the starting center and the rock of their interior defense. Could you introduce yourself, sir?
Issac Haas.
Wonderful. We got a pretty loaded roster. And look at this roster here. Some guys with TBT experience. Charge, what stands out with you about this grouping of players?
Yeah, I think what's going to be really important here for these guys is the chemistry of the team. So what was pretty cool about these guys and was how important it was ensuring that this was a true alumni team. When they did go away from the core roster of some of the Purdue guys, they brought in some great experience, especially recently today with Justin Detman being added, which is just a huge add. So
he's a bucket. He's an absolute bucket.
Yeah, let me start by asking Ryan a couple of questions about kind of forming this team. So obviously a first-year GM. How's the experience been so far for you, Ryan?
It's been really good. I mean, we picked a heck of a year to start this in the COVID environment, but all in all, it's been really good. I feel like the team we've got, the 9 guys we've got announced so far are just really good guys, and they're all team guys. I think that Charge, you mentioned something about chemistry. I think our chemistry is actually going to be really good. I'm just really excited and just thankful to the TBT team that they chose us as a first-year team.
Yeah, no, congratulations on that. It's tough for first-year teams, especially when it went down to 24 teams to get in. And so kind of follow-up question for you. I mentioned you really kept that Purdue core, especially a year like this where 24 teams, I'm sure there's people clamoring. Your phone's probably been ringing off the hook with people wanting to play for you because their teams did not get in. So why was it important for you to stay with this Purdue core and not deviate from that?
Yeah, I mean, the whole reason that I wanted to start this was being a lifelong Purdue fan and a Purdue alumni. I just felt like as I've watched TBT the last few years that there was no reason that Purdue shouldn't have a team out there. We've got, in my opinion, the greatest fan base in all of college basketball. We've got an awesome, pool of players to draw on and former Purdue men's basketball players. And I know that our fans are just clamoring to see a Purdue team out there and represent to all of our fan base.
Yeah, it's interesting too. You see this roster and it's light on TBT experience, but long on talent. You guys have a very challenging matchup. Looking at these stats in the next round, so I'd like to ask the coach, what is your biggest challenge, Coach Smith? Moving forward with this roster you see on the screen, against Heartfire, what are you trying to run offensively to get buckets against the long interior of Team Heartfire?
Well, I think the most important thing is that you brought the most important player on our team in on this interview today. I think pounding it down to the big fella Issac is going to be huge for us. He's a matchup nightmare. But in terms of a team Heartfire, they got a ton of talent, a lot of length, a lot of athleticism. A guy like Brandon Wood, got 37.6% from the arc in the G League in 2018, a couple years ago. A guy like Mark Lyons had averaged 17 and 4 in the FIBA World Cup a couple years ago. So those guys, you add Quincy Miller and Isaiah Austin into that. It's going to be a tough matchup, along with going not on a whole lot of practice either. So it'll be interesting to see when we get to our little our training camp when we get down in Columbus. It'll be fun, and it'll be a great test for us, but I'm looking forward to it.
Perfect. Hey, quick follow-up for you, Coach, before we jump over to Isaac. You talked about, not a whole lot of time to get things together. So this is a team that, we expect to have some good chemistry. They don't have as much overseas or professional experience as some other. So how do you bring a team together this quickly in this short amount of time and get them ready to play a team like Heartfire?
That's a great question. I think it's going to be a crash course. I think the main part about it is if these guys come together, and once we get to training camp and we get to Columbus, it'll be about having fun, having together as a group, as a unit when we get to their training camp, and putting in an offensive set for each individual guy in the team so they can have something to look forward to when we get to the game, and try to put in a defensive plan that's going to make sense and then use their input as well, because these guys who have joined our team know a lot about the opponent, know a lot about the guys on Heartfire, and probably more so than I do because they've played in professional games against them and whatnot. So taking their input as well, so we can go out there as a unit.
Yeah, and I want to bring in Haas because, I know you've put up almost 10 points a game, a former athlete. You've been a veteran of TBT before. You know what this is about, playing for cash, playing for money, playing at some of the best pros in the world. And, you have a very difficult matchup. You've played in the G League against some top-level athletes, but Miller and Austin, how difficult a matchup do you see that being moving forward?
I think every matchup's got its own tendencies, with each player having their own strengths and weaknesses. I view it as no other. It's just another guy who's got his own strengths and weaknesses, and I'll be watching clips and stuff heading up to it. And I'm sure they'll be providing us film and stuff as soon as we get there and get into our training camp. So, it's just another matchup, and I'm looking forward to be able to play again in organized basketball. Honestly, this COVID stuff has just been a nightmare.
Yeah, I think that's the important thing, is getting that organized basketball. And appreciate you jumping on. Isaac just got done with his workout, so appreciate you taking the time to slot in with us. And Hayner mentioned your year last year with Armored Athlete. You had that nice double-double almost in just 15 minutes of work. So, just phenomenal numbers this year. Obviously getting more of a featured role with Men of Mackey. But I know you've been recruited to other teams this year as well, so we kind of talked about that. But you stayed with Men of Mackey, so was there any consideration of even going a different direction here?
Initially, obviously, I had a lot of other teams reach out first, and then, Purdue came out, and it was like, ooh, well, these are my guys, right? So, obviously, that I lean more towards that, and they've been very accommodating throughout this entire process, and it's going to be an honor to play with these guys. And honestly, I'm just excited to see all my guys again, see my buddy Jaquil Taylor, who I roomed with for 3 years, get to play with him again. So it's going to be a fun time.
I think, too, your roommate who you played with, Taylor, having a Twin Towers alignment to fight the inside thing of Heartfire with Miller and Austin. Secondary score of gains, generally – Purdue is always known to run a certain kind of offense. Do you think the continuity of being an alumni team, you all having played under Matt Painter, does that help you run a certain degree of sets? Does that help you get guys sprung for certain shots?
I think, breaking free of the initial system that Matt's put in place in our heads and being able to be coached by Ryne Smith, the one and only, to get us together, get some really good sets in and get people good shots. Because that's all that really matters at the end of the day, is that these guys get good shots, that we play good, solid offense, and we play together. Because, we have a common goal, right? So there's no point in, fighting each other or trying to fight the system when we're all here for a short amount of time playing for the same thing.
What is that common goal, by the way, real quick?
Well, obviously, the win and all, it comes down to that. But it's
cash
a great
money.
It's a great opportunity to showcase your talents, your abilities, and to be able to give people at the next level, whether it be overseas, whether it be G League, whatever the next level is for a certain person, the NBA or whatever, then it's a opportunity for film for these guys to see. So if you're able to showcase these things that you can do and you feel comfortable with, then, it can provide some insight for teams recruiting you. So.
Yeah, so sticking on, let's go with Coach Smith here. Isaac obviously talked about the honor of playing with a coach like yourself. So you're a D1 coach after spending a lot of time coaching high school at the University of Incarnate Word with the Southland Conference. And you've had a lot of good success this past year. You had more conference wins this year than the prior 2 years combined. You're doing some great things off the court. I saw some amazing numbers around the GPAs and things of that nature. So you kind of moved up and you're coaching D1 guys, and now you're going to be coaching some professionals in this short kind of sprint. So how is that experience at your D1 school going to translate over to coaching some of these professionals?
Well, hopefully well. I mean, hopefully it translates. The biggest thing, like I said earlier, was taken into account what these guys think and want to do. I myself have never played professional basketball, so I'm not going to try to go out there and tell someone, what to do or be try to micromanage what's going on the court when they have a better idea about what's going on. I'm just out there to make sure we're extremely prepared for the opponent, have statistics on hand for the scouting reports and things like that. But I'm excited about it. Like I said, I want to take into account what these guys really, really want to do out there, and make sure these guys are the most prepared they can possibly be come July 5th.
I want to loop back in, Mr. K, too. You guys have made some big moves. I mean, literally 2 hours before taping, and I was actually literally having a beer in the park in Brooklyn with my friends when I saw this Twitter account. Is like, we're making moves. I'm like, I had just prepped the show. What are you doing? But the reality is, like, you see these moves, and I mean, adding Stair and Detman, like, is that a huge game changer on your perimeter scoring? Like, to free up some spacing for Haas and Taylor down low?
I think so. I mean, I think we've prioritized skill, just like Coach Painter does at Purdue. Shooting is going to be key for us. You look at our roster, and we can shoot from pretty much every position. And yeah, obviously that's important. We want to make sure that Isaac and Jaquil have a great opportunity to showcase what they can do down on the block, and they'll pull some defenders down, and then hopefully our shooters will pull some defense away from those guys down on the block. So absolutely. I think Ethan Stair is probably going to be very underrated by the TBT followers and the TBT community. You look at what he did last year at Mercer under Coach Gary, and he averaged almost a double-double. I think it was like 16 and 9. He's a guy who can do everything. And then, like you guys alluded to, Justin Denman earlier, and a shout out to my good friend and the GM of Everline Drive, Matt Mitchell, for making that connection. Justin,
friend of the pod, great guy.
Yeah. Matt made the intro to Justin just this past week when we realized that we had some spots to fill, and it worked out. But as you talked about and alluded to Justin earlier, he's a guy who can get a bucket. He's a 10-year pro, former G League MVP, former G League All-Defensive player, I believe, as well. So. Yeah, and then don't sleep on Johnny Hill. I mean, he's just a solid point guard. He's looking to play overseas again this year, and I'm really happy with the 3 guys we added. Obviously, tough to lose the 3 guys this week that we did lose, but we are really excited about the guys that we've got.
Yeah, and if anyone listening has not seen the Twitter account for Men of Mackey, definitely make sure you Google the top 10 plays from Johnny. They were incredible, especially the blocks. So don't have time to show them on the show today, but I mean, absolutely outstanding. And I think that move, picking up Frank Gaines, obviously Purdue, Fort Wayne, so he is connected with you guys to get a little more experience in there to this young team is going to go a long way. I do want to jump back over to Isaac before we head over to talk about the matchup a little bit more. So you're going to be quarantined for probably 6 days up to possibly 14 days. Aside from practicing and working out, how are you going to keep your sanity?
Well, that's a good question. Honestly, I've just been I've been reading a lot, just different educational books like self-improvement, stuff like that, whether it be, negotiating or, ways to think about, I don't know, just a lot of self-perception books that are really good. Mm-hmm. Bringing a computer, obviously, to watch videos or anything else that I might want to do. So that's pretty much how I keep my sanity already, so might as well continue it.
Let me explain that sanity is generally an overrated concept, to be honest with you. I've gone 41 years without it. I don't miss it, to be honest with you. you guys have a really good roster, and it's time to maybe. I mean, and we didn't even discuss Gaines, who's like an obvious bucket in the backcourt, not an alum of your team. He obviously played for Fort Wayne, but again, a guy who can get buckets. Let's talk a little bit about your matchup, because you guys have a great team, but you have a kind of a challenging matchup. It starts with that Twin Tower. You got two NBA guys in Miller and Dawson. Charge, all the stats on these podcasts are by Charge. They're a first-year team as well. But, like, looking at this roster you're playing against, and one thing I'm looking at is both the talent you're playing against in Miller and Austin. Wainwright's obviously a bucket. Wood's very good. He's got lots of experience in TBT. But, like, they're also a bigger squad. Most of the team is above 6'8". There's a lot of size there. Purdue's not known to run. Is this a kind of matchup you might want to judiciously run a little?
I think it's going to start down low with Isaac. I think he's going to cause serious problems for them. I think when we, isolate him on the block and then you put our shooters around it, I hope that would cause problems for them. Obviously, they're two-headed monster up front with Brandon Wood and Mark Lyons are going to be a problem. Brandon Dawson, who just makes a living hanging on rims, dunking everything in sight, is going to be an issue for us. But I think we're going to stick to what we do. Like you alluded to earlier, I think that if you go through the Purdue system for 4 years, you're going to learn a certain way to play. When that's moving the ball, good shots, passing up a good shot for a great shot. So hopefully we can do that on the offensive end and keep them off the offensive glass where we're going.
Yeah, you were breaking up just a little bit there, Coach. But I am going to stay with you as a follow-up in regards to, obviously, coaching against Homer Drew has to be a big pleasure for you, and matching strategies and wits is going to be fantastic to see. And not being able to see a team like Heartfire, who are a bunch of individuals together, how do you prepare for a matchup like that? Do you look for Homer Drew's tendencies? Do you look at a lot of Baylor guys? Do you look at his son's tendencies? And so, how do you prepare when there's a lot of uncertainty of what they're going to be running?
I think it's going to come down a lot to individual tendencies of the guys on their team. Obviously, it's going to be very humbling to coach against Coach Drew. Actually, a crazy connection. Our director of basketball operations down at University of the Incarnate Word played for Homer Drew at Valpo, Chris Artis, back in the day. So that'll be pretty cool to pick his brain about what we can expect. But no, I really think it's going to come down to just preparing by watching individual tendencies of their players, and then try to put together a plan offensively through Isaac, obviously, to get buckets.
I find it interesting too, because and this is one of the great ironies of basketball as a sport, is it's the most individual, but also the most team-based sport, because one guy can change the facet of a game, but all five have to spring them. So I really want to ask, this question is more for the head coach, is it more of an advantage to have maybe the less star-studded roster, but be based in a continuity of a similar offense, versus having maybe more talent, but having a bunch of guys who don't play together trying to find common cause? Is continuity of concept more important than individual one-on-one bucket getting? Which one might take more primacy in this matchup?
Well, I hope it's going to be continuity. Obviously, I trust the guys that we got with the addition of I guess we're just going to have to toss the ball up and see come a fit. But, I trust our guys to do that, to move the ball. And like I said earlier, pass up a good shot for a great shot, playing the post, and doing things like that. But that is a great way to put it. I think that's the great ultimate question for basketball is what's better, a great team with spread out talent, or just have that individual talent. So I guess we'll see. I'm not sure. I don't know if they answer that question. I guess we'll find out.
We will find out.
All right, so let's jump back over to Isaac. So obviously you've been a pro for 2 years, so very young in your career, but kind of tenured on this TBT team. So we know you play for Armored Athlete, had a good year last year. So what kind of advice are you going to give to some of the new guys? Obviously, new GM, new coach who haven't been in TBT before, but obviously very unique tournament. You got Elam ending. So what are some of the things that you're going to make sure that these guys are looking for, and how do you bring some of these other young guys along that haven't played before?
I mean, honestly, it's quite simple. It's just a matter of moving on to the next play no matter what. Obviously, we all want the same thing, right? We want the money at the end. We want to be able to showcase ourselves and do the best that we can doing that. So the only way you can do that is focus one play at a time. Not get caught up in the hype of, something's not going right now. This could be the last game that we play, and then just letting that compile onto each other and become just an out-of-control snowball, right? Whereas if you just kind of segment every single play, whether it be offense or defense, in and of itself and compartmentalize it, put it away, then you realize that you can get better from it from film, and then you can move on in the game, right? And that's honestly a big thing is the whole pressure of it all. It's like you lose once and you're done, right? So the pressure itself is obviously a big deal to factor with somebody who hasn't done it before. But, at the end of the day, we're all here just to play basketball, right? So it's just a game, and, we just need to go out, like Ryne said, and have fun.
Yeah, and it's interesting, too, because, and Charge and I approach this from a different angle because he's more of a G League guy, and I'm always more of a college guy. And I'm always fascinated by alumni teams because, you come with a commonality of purpose, commonality of understood sets, of a focus, of a fan base that follows you. So what kind of an advantage is it having one of the better fan bases in the Big Ten on your back? How much of an advantage does being part of Boilermaker Nation offer you when the crowds can't show up? Are you going to feel them in the court? Is it going to give you a unity of purpose that will give you an advantage over a team like Heartfire?
Well, I mean, to me, I just feel like it's just a matter of having that pride, once you put on the black and gold or whatever color we'll be wearing, honestly, it just comes down to the pride of representing Purdue, right? And, you don't really understand it unless you went to school there or if you've been around there and seen it in action. But those kind of guys, we just come together, right? It's a family. And that's something that Purdue has always preached in and of itself is that the Purdue family is literally a family. So when we get back together and we're starting to practice and all this stuff, I think guys are going to be, a little offset at first, maybe the first day, too. But by the third, fourth day, we're going to be clicking. That's just how it works.
Yeah, and I would just add to that as we added some of these non-Purdue West Lafayette guys and just non-Purdue alums, I made it explicitly clear the type of guys we were looking for, team-first guys. So I feel like, these additional grad transfers, as TBT likes to call them, are going to be team-first guys as well. We've made that a real priority.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Especially with the team you built, that chemistry is going to be critical, and definitely no room for squeaky wheels. So let me stick with you, Ryne, and before we start heading off to some closing comments from each of you. Obviously, Tyler Strong is something that's very meaningful to you and very important to you, and I know you've been talking about that on your social media. So why don't you just talk about that for a minute?
Yeah, so when I had the idea to start the Purdue TBT team, kind of simultaneously, I had the idea to incorporate Tyler Trent. And for those that aren't familiar with Tyler and his story, he was a Purdue super fan, a Purdue student, and now a Purdue alum who was battling cancer. And, he won the Disney Spirit Award. He became really a national sensation after really how he came to fame was he was doing a cancer treatment in Indianapolis and on a Friday, I believe, and then ended that in the afternoon and drove to Purdue's campus to camp out that night, overnight for a football game. And Coach Brom, our football coach, came out and was kind of interacting with the fans, thanking them for camping out the night before, and learned of Tyler's story, and it kind of took off from there. But unfortunately, Tyler lost his battle with cancer about a year and a half ago. And so I wanted to just, incorporate Tyler and his story to continue to honor his legacy. And I think, we're playing for Purdue, but we're playing for Tyler. So we've got an even higher purpose to kind of show out and try to go out and win this thing for Tyler.
A higher purpose is always a great thing to play for. It. Guys become giants when they have something to actually fight for. Issac, we're closing out, obviously, because we want to make sure we respect you guys' time. And thanks all of you for coming on. What do the fans of TBT need to know as a closing statement? And feel free to empty the barrel because we're almost done here. But Issac, what do fans of Men of Mackey need to expect from you guys in your opening round run for TBT?
That we're going to go out there, we're going to play together, we're going to play hard and play the Purdue way.
The man's
Easy and
succinct.
simple, man.
He's close and he's to the point. That sounds like a great way to end a proud franchise of Purdue alum. Gentlemen, thanks a lot for coming on. Men of Mackey on the show tonight. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks, guys.
No problem, man. Thank you.